Hello there, welcome back into the LFC Transfer Room here with a live stream. I'm joined by Kev, Owen, and Sumit. I'm Jack. It's going to be a fun one. We're kind of starved of news in the 6 days up until our first competitive match. So we're kind of making something out of nothing a little bit. Jurgen Klopp speaking earlier today in an interview about, season expectations, goals for the year. We'll get into all of that. But first, Kev, how are you today, my friend?
Superb, mate. It's Sunday, day before work. Couldn't be better. You?
I'm doing great. I had work earlier today. Nice and relaxed. Nice weather where I'm at. Owen, yourself, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. It's been a while since I've been on the channel, so yeah, great to be back and quite a bit to talk about tonight. I know recently there hasn't been a whole lot of Liverpool news going around, but yeah, it seems there's quite a few talking points tonight.
And Sumit, my friend, how are you doing as well?
I'm doing great, man. It's super hot over here. It's almost touching 100 degrees Fahrenheit in New York, New Jersey area. It's around 35, 36. No complaints. Sunday and next week onwards.
I believe Sumit has started lagging. He's saying he's going on vacation. I can tell you that. He'll be back in a moment, hopefully. But yeah, no, so it's a really interesting time. Owen, you mentioned it. There was the Klopp news. I don't really know how to frame it perfectly because it was such an interesting blend of misinterpretation, coach speak. Basically, he got down to saying the main target is top four, and that's in the title. Main target is top four. Kev, for you, I guess, just taking that comment on face value, when you look at that, top four or as the main target, how much are you buying that? How much are you selling that?
I'm buying into that because top four is your first main point of call. It's only as the season goes on will you then see how good your team actually are and how good they're going to be going into an actual Premier League title race. I think as fans, we already have an expectation that we will be in that top four. But I think Klopp, since he's been here, has never gone out of his way to be anything as we are here to win the title and we're going to win it. Instead, he's laying down the foundations to all the others by recognising how well they've done in the window and gone, well, yeah, it's going to be harder this year. I think it will be to some degree. So I think our first priority is Champions League, but as the season goes on and as the games get played, you will see us, hopefully, will be part of the title race.
Oh, and for you, when you're looking at those comments, kind of your take on them as well.
Yeah, I agree with Kev. I think from an outsider point of view, this year it's totally unpredictable really how it's going to go. It's kind of like this top six, any of them can get Champions League football. Obviously, you'd expect Man City, of course, and Liverpool to be the top two, but at the same time, I'm glad. Geez, everyone's leaving. What's happening there?
Oh, it's just you and I. It's just you and I. I think this is going to be the theme of today's stream. It's just everyone internet connectivity issues. So bear with us with that. If I crack out, I think that's the sign the stream just needs to end. So hopefully, I'm going to message Charlie, make sure he's in the reserves in case my internet decides to join them in the dumper. Finish your point, Owen.
I was saying, yeah, I think any Liverpool, Man City, you'd expect them to get top two, really. But then anyone else after that, with all the signings, incomings and outgoings, it's very, very unpredictable. So I'm glad Klopp isn't kind of getting arrogant. I'm glad he isn't getting ahead of himself. And if we learned anything over the last 7 years, we know that Klopp's a very intelligent guy. That he knows what he's talking about. Everything he says, there's a reason behind it. Especially during lockdown, you've seen that he's kind of been saying stuff to kind of control the media, control the press. So yeah, I think what he's saying, there's definitely something behind it. He's trying to kind of play it down, be the underdog, and I like that a lot. I think it makes sense. And yeah, it'll be stupid to go. Yeah, we're going to be in a league title race because it just puts pressure on the boys, and it's very unnecessary at this early stage.
Right as I was about to bring Sumit back in, he loses his internet again. Kev, I mentioned it when you lost us as well. That'll be the theme of today's stream. Oh, you're fine. That'll be the theme of today's stream. It's just the internet. Will it work? Will it not work? Good to see you, Top, by the way, in the comments. Big fan. big fan. 1:35 a.m. for him in Thailand. Still tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in, and let us know kind of your thoughts on the goals for the year. I was kind of talking about it before the stream. I rated last season a 10 out of 10 because we did so well in the Prem, getting so close in the Champions League, and then winning the other two trophies. And like when you look at a season, that's the margins are so fine and to come so close. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Upon further inspection, I may knock it down a little bit, but I don't know. If we were, and I've been seeing this, another interesting comment in the, actually before, Sumit, I'm going to see if your internet's going to hold up for now. Your thoughts, I guess, on the comments from Klopp and your expectations for the year, top four.
Sorry, I lost the connectivity, so internet issues. So I thanks for sending me the clip. This is purely when I heard it and saw the clip. This is purely gamesmanship by Klopp. That's the way I heard it and I read it, and it is nothing new in my opinion, right? I mean, if you look at what Pep said in the last few years, it's always talking about if there's a question asked about something else, he always brings Liverpool into the picture. And then, gives us like, oh, Liverpool is doing that, Liverpool are doing that, this and that. And there's nothing wrong. There are two ways to look at it. Number one is, oh, Klopp is showing the weaker side. No, he's not showing the weaker side. The reality of the situation is this. The reality is that Manchester City is the reigning champion, and therefore they are favourite to win the next title. And there's nothing wrong in that, because a reigning champion starts the year or the season with an advantage, right? We always look at the gaps between City versus the champion versus the second versus the third and the fourth, and then that's the yardstick that we use to measure what's the prospect for the other teams to challenge for the title. So from that perspective, it is fine. The second thing is that I have read somewhere that, we are already conceding the league to Manchester City. No, absolutely not. This is just pure gamesmanship because of the fact that both the teams have done some major transfers during this transfer window, and they have also lost some key players. We have lost Sadio Mane, one of our key players in the last 5 years. They have lost Jesus, Sterling, Zinchenko, and Fernandinho, who was probably the best DM in the last 5 years. I mean, you can take last year out of the question, but that's the reality. Now, they have also strengthened, and it is not a proven strength, or I would say it's not proven yet whether they would be successful or not. And the same goes for us. So from that perspective, if you look at it, it's kind of balances out. And therefore, to give them the respect of, yes, they are the favorite to win the title, and that's the way I think he's trying to portray the narrative, that they're still favorite to win the league, and there's nothing wrong in that. But I would say there is 80% gamesmanship in that. Alex Ferguson has done that. Jose Mourinho did that in his prime years. Pep and Klopp, they are doing it each other, and that's what we should take from that and make fun of it, or we want to dissect it, bisect it, whatever we want to do. The reality is just pure gamesmanship.
It's interesting. I want to bring up kind of what first stirred the pot, at least in terms of the social media sphere. It was a tweet from Anfield Edition after the interview came out, and the quote that they tweeted, which I feel was slightly taken from context, was, here's the quote: "It looks like City in the end will be the champion," and then in brackets, "of the Premier League in the upcoming season," bracket ends. "If we hadn't been champion, I think they really would have won it 5 or 6 times in a row, which is really crazy in this country." That by itself, I could buy that's a little weird to say. Like, I think this other team will be champion. That's a little weird. But it wasn't that he just kind of said that out of the blue. The full quote, and I sent it to Sumit, and you can see it on, I forget what page it was. Hopefully you find it somewhere. It was about a minute-long clip of Klopp talking. He kind of said, "Our main goal is top 4. If you find yourself in a title race, that's what happens." And that's a very logical sequence of events. You can't not be in a top 4 race and be in a title race. It's like not every square is a rectangle and every rectangle is a square, some situation like that. I forget what the exact analogy is there. But I think you made an interesting point, Sumit, that City should be favorites because they're defending champions. So I have a follow-up question for you on that. Who is better, Liverpool and City? And who should be the favorite for the Premier League, Liverpool or City?
Oh, that's $1 million question, right? Let's just go back a little bit and see what we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years, right? And Klopp is absolutely right. Like, if Liverpool hadn't been there, City would have won it 5 or 6 times, because last season we were 15 minutes away from winning the league, right? That's a reality. And you can talk about the handball against Everton and whatever, those are, I'm not counting those. We were some few millimeters away a couple of seasons back from winning against City, when we lost the title by 1 point, I believe, right? So, and then we won the league. So it's about 3 seasons out of the 6 that we were that close of winning the league, and out of the 3 we won 1. Hands down with a big margin, right? So the reality is that we were the closest, and we were the only team who challenged them. Otherwise, City would have taken the league, I believe, even after January, every single year of the season in the last 6 years or 5 years or so. That's the reality. And Klopp is 100% right in that. Now, this season is a little bit different. And when I say it's a little bit different, is because both teams have lost key personnel, more City than Liverpool. Why? They have lost Jesus. Yes, the numbers don't speak highly enough of Jesus, that he had been an absolute goal machine like Aguero. But his contributions, nonetheless, his off-the-ball work probably is not seen or praised that much. He's a fantastic player, by the way. And before Man City, we were also in for Jesus, if you go back a few years. They have lost Sterling. And people can say, oh, yes, Sterling didn't become the player that we all thought of. He will never become the player. He will never become the top 3 or the top 5. Never, in my opinion, right? It would be great if he does, but he will not. But the reality of the situation is that because of Sterling, Man City won that game against Aston Villa in the last 15 to 20 minutes last season. If you remember, he was instrumental in the move from the right, and Gundogan scored with the header, right? So key personnel. I'm not talking about Zinchenko, because I think he's a good player, but not that Pep will miss him, right? Coming back to the DM position, yes, Rodri has been fantastic, fabulous, agreed. But then Fernandinho, how many times have we seen Fernandinho coming in, chipping in, and playing? Even in the Champions League, I think he played against Real Madrid as a left back, if I'm not mistaken, guys, or a DM, right? Yes, his legs are not there, but the experience was there. Now, they have also got Haaland. They've got Alvarez, fantastic talent, like our Fabio, right? Not proven yet, we all know. But then from now, at this point, today, if we compare, in my opinion, they have been weakened because of the key personnel that have left their team. On the other hand, we look at Liverpool. We have lost Sadio Mane, a legend in Klopp era, in probably Liverpool's football club. Fantastic second half last season. However, let's be honest about it, and I will say that I don't think Sadio is the same Sadio what we have seen in 17, 18, 19, even 1920, right? So therefore, and he has been playing as a number 9 in last year for the majority after Luis Diaz came into the picture, right? And he was been getting goals, but he's not a natural number 9. So therefore, if and only if the expectation that we have, and it will take time, it will not be overnight. Yes, we have Darwin Núñez scored 4 goals, but in my opinion, we should not take that very seriously. Just like we should not take the seriously of the criticisms on him when he was didn't do well in the 30 minutes that he had played in the preseason. His preseason is nothing but just to get yourself fit, and the scores and the how you play really doesn't matter to me that much. But if Núñez can live up to even 50% of the expectation, let's say he scores 20 goals next season, right? I think, and everything else, and the injuries and everything else, we should be handled properly, and we are lucky enough, right? I think we are stronger position right now than Manchester City going into next season. That's my personal opinion.
All right, that was a lot that you threw at me, Schumann, but I digested all of it. Hopefully.
Sorry about that. No,
you're fine. You're fine. I mean, you in 5 minutes, or however long that was, managed to sum up the entire history of Liverpool Football Club. I'm kidding. But it's interesting points that Schumann made. Owen, for you, I'll toss the same question. We talk about favorites, City, defending champions. Who is better, Liverpool or City? And is your answer the exact same for who is the favorite for next season?
I think when head-to-head, I think Liverpool probably do have the better starting 11 when everyone's fit. But I just think it's the midfield, really, that kind of lets Liverpool down. And a few injuries there. And you look at Man City's midfield, a few injuries there doesn't really affect them. Where if Thiago, Fabinho get injured for us, that's absolutely killer. And we're going to drop points guaranteed, just to put it out, really. But with Man City, even if Rodri's injured, they've brought in Calvin Phillips now as well, which before he signed, I thought Liverpool probably favourites, but now they've replaced Fernandinho, and it's a really annoying signing because it would have left a massive void in their team, but they filled it pretty perfectly, really. And yeah, I think they're just covered everywhere, even though it's been said in the past sort of year or so that Liverpool kind of have got better depth, and I think that is true. I think City's still kind of where it matters. They are kind of clear of Liverpool, and it's really annoying. I think one more midfield signing, and I think that could swing it back in Liverpool's favour for sure. But yeah, I think in this moment in time, considering City won the league last year, and yeah, had a phenomenal year all round, I think you'd have to say it was City who were favourites. But it could definitely come down to the head-to-head games. I think that shouldn't be overrated either. That the game at the Anfield and the Etihad, it's going to be absolutely key. It's going to be some of the biggest games you've ever seen in world football, I think.
That's a high bar you're putting there. Jen, thank you very much for the £1.80. We'll deal with, or not deal with, that sounds very serious. Look at that after the stream. I'll make sure to take a look at that. Kev, for you, I want to bring up this comment from Don Van Dyke, potentially relative of Virgil. He says we have a better chance to win the Champions League than the Premier League. I kind of have something to extrapolate from that as well, but I just want to toss that to you. Do you agree with that logic? And then I'll also kind of stick in there, where do we compare to City in terms of who's favorites for either of those trophies?
Well, if you look at it face value, you would say that Liverpool's most likelihood of getting a major trophy this year would be the Champions League, due to our pedigree and due to how far we go into that competition. A lot further than the likes of what say Man City would like to get to. Yet they got to one final, but if you look at Liverpool, we've got to 3 finals under Klopp, get to at least the quarterfinals at least every season. So it's on face value, you would say that. As to, I kind of agree with Owen, and I kind of agree with Schubert as well. They will go in as favourites, as for the Premier League, the favourites for everything, the favourites with the bookies for the Champions League as well, even though they've got no kind of pedigree or haven't won it. But that's due to their actual squad and what that level of squad can do. I agree with Owen in the fact that our midfield is slightly weaker compared to Man City's. But it will. I do think it will come down to those 2 games at the Etihad and at Anfield, and that could determine. I think also the games against Chelsea. I think Chelsea and Tottenham, how strong they are. The fact that Conte has a certain degree of playing as well. I think the games against City will come into a good contest with Pep. For me, although they go in as slight favourites, I do think there's more tendency of injuries in their squad. So although they start off as favourites, not big favourites for me. They're not clear out there as 10 points or anything like that. It'll come down to 1 or 2 games, 3 years. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. I appreciate that, Kev. My prevailing sentiment for the last like half decade has been not half decade, because that goes back to 2017. Like last 3-4 seasons has always been Liverpool head to head are as good as anybody in world football, and in a knockout competition, I would trust them more than anybody to win it. Have I been proven right? Not really, because they've won a decent amount, but I think other sides have done better. Madrid, probably, you would say, as the obvious one, having beaten us twice in the last 4 years in the Champions League final. And I saw an interesting Twitter thread kind of breaking down that I do believe that we have a better pound-for-pound squad, individual by individual squad, than City do. But the way Guardiola kind of plays his football just makes them more conducive to leagues. The consistency, like their baseline performance never dips. Ours can really dip, but our apexes, I think, are as high, if not higher, than City's. And we more consistently hit them in the knockout tournaments. So I don't know. Something just fell in my room. I was positive you could hear that. There's been some interesting discussions on, Spurs, Conte, what he's doing. I had the very rare luxury of being in the U.S. time zone and being able to watch matches in the evening. So there was the Chelsea-Arsenal match, and there was the Bayern Munich-City match. The Arsenal one was pretty interesting. They look really good. But kind of building on that, is there a risk of us going backwards? Owen, I'll go to you first with this. Do you view a team like Arsenal, like Spurs, maybe Chelsea, if they get a few things right, United under Ten Hag? It's a pretty wide open top 6 race, but is it still the 2 front runners that are still a ways ahead?
I believe so. I think it's happened so many times in the past, kind of not that many times really, but in the last 3-4 years where rival fans have gone, I think top 2 is going to be separated this year. I think all the other top 6 teams are making it back, kind of evening out the playing surface. But I don't think really every single time that's been cancelled out. But maybe the lockdown season when United had a pretty good purple patch really for a good 6 months and then kind of disappeared after that. So I think it's just going to be Liverpool, Man City again. I think kind of the longer the season goes on, the more kind of the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, their faults will kind of get figured out. Because ultimately, I do think those teams have building up and they are good teams now for sure. Some of the best in Europe, and the standard of quality of football in the league is the highest it's been for ages. I think a few years back, people were saying how kind of the top 6 is nowhere near what it used to be. I think going back now, sort of 20 years ago, I think it's just as good, if not better. So yeah, it's going to be really, really hard for sure to even get that top 4. But yeah, I think considering the standards that young Klopp has set over the last 5 years, it should be doable. And as long as nothing catastrophically goes wrong with injuries or anything like that, then yeah, top 2 should definitely be doable.
It's interesting kind of where we go from here. Schumann, I'll go to the same thing with you. Owen mentions a bigger quality leap as a group, but the 2 up top still. Do you kind of concur with him in terms of the separation, or could either City or Liverpool be at risk of being passed by one of the chasers in that pack?
Not next season. I think Liverpool, I would agree with, and Liverpool and City are still the top 2 favorite to challenge for the title, or one holding on to the title and the other challenging. But Tottenham, based on the business that they've done and the Conte factor, are kind of very close. And what they have done in the transfer business very meticulously, right? I think they would be very close, and if there is some luck factor going for them, they would be the next who would challenge for the title. We have seen United and Arsenal for the 2 seasons in a row, 2 transfers, summer transfers in a row, have spent more than 100 million, which is huge, right? And they have made some good additions, but not to that level of City or Liverpool. So again, this would be a season where if they can make to the top four, that would be success for Arsenal. But I don't think they are ready for or even close enough, and the talent that they have right now is enough to challenge for the title. As far as United are concerned, that's an interesting one because I don't know. I don't know United where they will end up. I have a feeling that they will again miss out on top four, even with the new manager and with his new philosophy. I think they are banking too much on Anthony Martial this season. Ronaldo, obviously, everyone knows he wants to get out of the club. He scored most of the goals. Martial, I don't know what we are going to get from Martial. So they have made some good additions, but not good enough, in my opinion, to be in the top 2 or 3. So I will agree with Owen.
I'm very excited. I was, in a few hours ago, I was looking back at our 2021-2022 Premier League prediction stream. It was pretty interesting. We had Watford, Norwich, and Southampton getting relegated. That's not too bad. We had Burnley just one spot ahead of them. So that wasn't like a terrible bottom group. We had Spurs in 8th. I disagreed with that heavily. But my logic for that was I thought Nuno was a much better manager than other managers, but he ended up getting fired and they got top 4 because of Conte. So I was kind of right, but wrong in the journey was not correct. The destination was. We had Leicester and Villa in the European spots, which turned out to be a bit stinky. So really, I think I love looking back at those. I mean, Liverpool as champions. So slightly off, ever so slightly off. I'm really interested in kind of how this all looks. As you mentioned United, who they beat us 4-0. So I'd be happy for them to believe that they're in a better position because of that most recent result than they actually are, because I think they still have major flaws. I kind of want to segue into the other topic in the title, but to kind of bridge that. Kev, is there anything that needs to kind of happen transfer-wise, development-wise, just in general for Liverpool to give them a better chance of winning the Premier League title specifically? Because that's about consistency. It's about being able to do it over full 38. Is there something that you want to see in the next, before the season starts, next few weeks, before the transfer window ends, that could kind of raise their odds a lot in your head?
Not really, no. I think going back to just quickly, I think Liverpool and City are the the only two in the league that you could put your money on to go on big wins and racking in 18, 19 wins. No other team can do that. And that's where the level of consistency comes in with these two teams. You're now looking at little bits that could actually gain us a height on City in certain games. I think we've covered. I think the way we are now, I'm more excited going into this season than I am going into last season. And the main reason for that is the fact that as well as having a formation option as well, we have the squad to have the flexibility to move into a 4-2-3-1, a 4-2-4. We're not staying still by staying with the 4-3-3. We can evolve, and we've got the players to do it now as well. Add in the 5 subs, and you're adding in a little bit more into our favour, into how we can adapt a game and set the reset button a lot earlier and a lot quicker with certain against certain sides, low block sides. Tottenham game last season came to mind where you're crying out for the change and a Darwin Núñez up front kind of player. We've got that now. I think the tweaks we need. I think we've mentioned on here about 1 million times. I think Owen has. I think you have as well. About bringing in another midfielder. I'd love to bring in another midfielder if it's possible, but I agree with Klopp. Unless there's a big major injury, which you don't really want, or someone decides they want to go, please, Ox, please say no. Okay. Well, then that's the only thing I can say. It's the fine margins at the top. It's the other. What we got to realise is the others are trying to make ground on Liverpool and City, and you look at how many players that they're bringing in at a time. Now, Arsenal, by all accounts, have won the pre-season friendly tournament and are going to get a trophy for winning the games that they have. So well done to them. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hit the ground running next season. I can see inconsistencies with them. Chelsea have already started with the moaning game already after that 4-0 defeat to a team that's outside the Champions League. So, we've already got the battle in London as to who wants to be fighting already in the moaning game. You got Man United who think that they're going to do something like they did last season with the likes of Ronaldo, Varane come in, and Sancho, and they're going to win the league. Well, we finished 6th. You're looking at 4th, 5th, or 6th at the minute, unless something really changes with Frankie de Jong. I think the gap between Liverpool and City will be 1 or 2 points. Chelsea will go down to about 5 if they are consistent. Then a further 8 to Tottenham, and then the rest are just fighting for that 4th place for me.
Interesting, very interesting. I'm gonna segue things. We can we'll touch back, I'm sure, on it as the stream progresses. But there was a report, and I don't know how strong it is. It's from Rich Sharp, who's a Blackburn Rovers reporter at the Lancashire Telegraph. He says that Tyler Morton's loan move to Blackburn Rovers is currently on hold due to injuries within the Liverpool squad. Jurgen Klopp wanting to keep the 19-year-old around for the time being. Now, this is Tyler Morton, guy who played in defensive mid in that first match against Spurs. This is the most notable performance I can think of from him, where he played, not necessarily played well. I struggle with this one personally. Owen, keeping Morton around as the fallback for injuries and not sending him out on loan. I'll kind of frame it like, say there's no injuries, so he doesn't play much, kind of wastes a 19-year-old development. There are injuries, so there's a big drop off to Morton. For me, I don't see a win-win. I don't see a win in that situation. That seems like a lose-lose to me. Maybe you see it differently?
No, I totally agree. I think it's affecting Morton's development just by keeping him behind to play and using him as 6th, 7th, 8th, even choice central midfielder. So, yeah, it affects him. I think he can really do with the regular game time, and I don't think he's good enough to come in and already be good enough to play in the Premier League or Champions League, which is ultimately where we'd need him. Ultimately, though, it does kind of mean that we could use him in the League Cup or FA Cup games, play him there. Using him as maybe one of those players who can kind of just free up the likes of Henderson and them sort of players so they don't have to play those extra games. I think that would be quite a good idea. At the same time, we should be bringing in another player so that you just have senior options all around. You can have a few youngsters in there, but at the end of the day, Tyler Morton, he needs to go out, get regular game time. He's 19 years old now, and he just needs to go out and play and kind of learn the trade. That's what he needs to do. And although Klopp, as I said before, you need to trust Klopp, but I'm struggling with this one, to be honest with you.
Sumit, I wonder where you stand on this, because it's a tough one with balancing the squad needs, not wanting to buy a new player, and balancing his development as well. There's a lot. It's a big juggling act. There's really no correct answer. Well, there is somewhere, but where do you stand on it?
Absolutely, and I think I think the decision this year is probably would make sense with 5 subs policy. That gives you the room for players who you think are really talented and can grow and can have more playing time, whether it's in the league or it's in the FA Cup or in the League Cup, right? Or even in Champions League, right? And we have seen in the Champions League, Klopp has used the players that he hardly uses in the league. So from that perspective, I do agree with the decision not loaning him out, given the fact that we are a little bit uncertain about Ox's situation, not in terms of injury, but whether he will stay or he will leave, right? Because there is genuine interest from one or two clubs, but there's no real, offer or a good offer yet on the table. So from that perspective, you have to really make sure that you have the bench ready. Now, loan offers like that, probably in the last week or even the last couple of days of the transfer window can happen. So I'm not ruling it out. But at this moment, I would tend to agree that not loaning him out and keeping him and gel more with the squad and will be better for his development and will give him more play time because of the 5 subs policy. So I would agree with not loaning him out right on this one.
Kev, on the Morton situation, what say you?
It's a catch-22 because the trolls will be all around and running around if you send them on loan and we have injuries in the team. So you'll be going, well, why didn't you keep hold of him? So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I tend to be on the head of caution, and I agree with Sumit with this, is that, not ruling it out, but at the minute, until we have a clear indication of where we stand with Ox and any other injuries that are there, how long they're going to take and how long they may be out, we'll then rule if he goes out on loan at the end of the window. But it's not something to be worried about at this minute. He's just making precautionary plans and is just ensuring that we are squad ready and not left in a position and a predicament like we were with the centre back situation. And the fact that we were scouring around and begging around and end up with an NFT centre back from Preston that no one ever saw and was a hologram. So
makes sense. Yeah. It's always awkward on these streams because I'll wait for you guys to stop talking and then have someone else to follow up with. My mind is just completely blank right now. Like it's a fascinating situation. That's what I want to talk about. Okay. So we saw with Fabinho last year. He's a very talented defensive midfielder. He has his flaws. He has his strengths. He was a shade worse at the back end of the season because of the amount of matches he played. So this year, what changes? Who is in the matches he's not playing, or he comes off at 60, 70, 80 minutes? Who's coming on for him? Who's replacing him? Is Tyler Morton that guy, Owen? Like who is Fabinho's backup? Because I'm like, it's kind of just like Henderson's kind of like that position. Milner's kind of that position. But is that the situation?
Yeah, Tyler Morton, he's just not that guy, is he? He's just not that guy. Not yet, anyway. I think Jordan Henderson, it has to be his position, really. You just got no one else there. I think maybe James Milner you could put there. But you need, in the defensive midfield role, you need someone trusted who's going to kind of be disciplined. And those two are the only players in the squad, really. Obviously, you got Curtis Jones, who can maybe kind of drop back if needs be, but he's never in anyone's mind is he going to be kind of the defensive midfielder. So yeah, I think for now it'd have to be Jordan Henderson, and if not, then James Milner. And I know a lot of people like to give them stick, and yeah, there are both into their 30s now. And I think we should have signed kind of another midfielder who can kind of play in that role. It would have been really, really kind of useful to have. Zakaria, a Switzerland player, but he was available on a free transfer, I believe, but I think he's gone now. So yeah, it would have been fantastic to have that option and to be able to kind of rotate Fabinho, because if he gets injured, then there is a massive drop off. But yeah, obviously we'll have to go into it and see what happens.
Sumit, like how do we avoid the Fabinho burnout this year? How do we avoid making that same mistake again with one of the best assets in world football?
This is the disappointing, I think, part of most Liverpool fans, that we really don't have a strong backup to Fabinho, which is actually one of the key positions of winning the league and not winning the league. And you are absolutely right. Last year, because of the number of games, and even not because of the number of games, sometimes I found Fabinho to be a bit leggy. If you look at the game against Manchester City, I thought he was really poor in the first half. So I would say that there is no alternative to Fabinho in our team, and that's my opinion in that position. Whether Hendo can do the job, yes, probably he can do the job, but he's not the best fit to replace Fabinho in that role. Thiago can do the job. He has done that, playing in that role for Bayern. Milner can do it still, whether he has the legs to play, 30 minutes every day, not every day, every week, remains to be seen. So I think this is where I think we should have gone ahead and get a strong defensive midfielder as a good backup for Fabinho, and that's where I think my disappointment is with Klopp and the board this year, even last year, and I really don't see Tyler Morton replacing Fabinho in that role. Rather, I see Hendo going back to the number 6 slot, and then Tyler coming in, playing whether Hendo's role or Thiago's role, right? Because in most of the most of the time we will see Hendo, Fabinho, and Thiago start in the starting lineup, right? It could be either Thiago or Keita or Keita and Hendo, right? So it's a combination. So it's basically between Hendo, Thiago, and Fabinho in that role, like kind of a juggle. But there's no good. That's where I think we have a major weakness.
I have a very controversial suggestion. I'll make it after I ask Kev. The same question. Fabinho, as I'm kind of honing in on that 6 position, because Fabinho is the specialist guy there. Henderson and Milner, they can do it, and I think that they can do it when they're on their day. They can do it really well. But they're shoehorned in there. They may be better elsewhere and as options elsewhere. For that defensive midfield spot, if there's a suspension, an injury, a drop in form, and need to rest him, who are you turning to if Fabinho's not in that position to perform?
No, it is probably our biggest weakness in the fact that we haven't got a backup to him. But looking at flipping it over, does he have to play all the Premier League games? Does he need to play against the bottom half of the table? No disrespect to them, but especially at home, I wouldn't have an expectation that we need a Fabinho, a defensive midfielder, against a lot of the teams that will come to Anfield and play in a low block. So if you're looking at alternatively, you look at that. There's at least 10 games he doesn't even have to be a part of. I think the beauty of this season is you have now got that 5 subs, and I know we keep reiterating about it, but even if Fabinho hasn't started well, you cannot reset the button there and bring in Hendo. We are going to shoehorn in certain places, and that will be the biggest one that we are going to shoehorn. Tyler Morton, I agree with Owen was saying, and Schumacher agree. He's not the right answer at the minute. It will be a big drop off, and the fact that he's not physically strong to play in that number 6 role for me, and that's the biggest thing that he needs to do. It's bringing him out on loan and into the Championship team would give him the experience, the knowledge, and also the physicality, so that when he comes back to us next season, we'll be able to, develop him even further and upgrade him. To me, we are going to shoehorn Fabinho, but there's ways around it. I think the 5 substitutions is going to play a dramatic thing in that. I think teams that are playing in a low block, I'm of the will of let's go 4-2-4 and let's just suffocate them. I'm one of them where you've got to look at that at the minute. If we're not going to bring anyone in, then fair enough, but we have to look at playing Hendo. I think Hendo plays better when he's alongside Fabinho, because you need the engine room of Hendo running around and doing what he does, not having to have the responsibility as a defensive and staying rigid, which is not I tend to have with the Hendo. So there are alternatives, but they're not the best.
That 4-2-4, you've been following my Football Manager save for I just won the Champions League with Clermont. Yeah, 4-2-4, baby. The Gegenpress. I have revolution. Go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
It does make sense though. There's times where we adapted it in the Champions League. You look at certain games in the Champions League we make four changes, and next minute we look refreshed and we're off again. To have that ability in the Premier League as well, which is as long and one of the most hardest and toughest leagues that there is, to have those 5 substitutions, to have those alternatives that you can bring on is great. Playing a 4-2-3-1, there's so many alternatives we have. Unfortunately, because we are weakened in that centre mid spot, we are going to have to be flexible in certain games, and that's where I see, does Van Dijk need to play against, say, like a Brighton? Does he need to play against, a team that are not going to even cause us any problems at all? That's where you bring Matip and Kanate in, and resting them. Don't get me wrong. Our go-to formation will be 4-3-3 in the big games. I don't think we will change it up or reverse it up against City and do a 4-2-3-1. I don't know what you think on that.
Respect Lewis Dunk, by the way.
Go ahead, Owen.
Yeah.
Respect Lewis Dunk.
Say that again, sorry.
Respect Lewis Dunk from Brighton. He's a threat from set pieces.
That's fair.
No, it was a bad team to pick on Owen. I agree, but I struggled to get past B in the alphabet, so I apologise for that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Well, speaking of flexibility, also speaking of my Football Manager save, I've now switched things up. I got a nice Argentinian left center back and a nice Spanish right center back with an American central center half. I'm playing a 5-2-3, wide center backs. It's like the widest formation. It's like that meme of Guardiola before the City versus Chelsea Champions League final, where he's like, they're so compact, but they're so wide. I'm like, that's how we are, man. We've conceded like no goals. I was at work today, and like this guy doesn't know it. He's like this American dude, obviously, and he knows like a lot about baseball, but nothing else. He doesn't know any other sports. I'm just talking about my Football Manager save for like 10 minutes, and he's just not responding at a certain point because he's like, all right, this guy needs to shut up. So I could talk for days about my Football Manager save. That is so much fun. But anyways, yeah, no, it's an interesting point you make with the 4-2-3-1, and I think that or the 4-4 or 4-2-4. I'm reading the comments from Halor about the 4-2-3-1 and Don Van Dijk. It's interesting because a change of system would get you away from a specialist 6 and to players who could kind of play as an 8 or in a pivot. There's just something we could make that I think would be very interesting. Could offer us a bit of depth for the 6, knows the club very well, has had a falling out after leaving the club. Available on a pretty cheap fee, maybe even as a loan. Let's try him out. He's Dutch. He plays in France. Jorginho Wijnaldum. Owen, Kev, Sumit, tell me why Wijnaldum could not be the answer to our Fabinho issues as an option as an 8. Maybe we even bring in the Dutch Jorginho Wijnaldum and play him as a 10.
I'm just going to let that silence ring out for a second.
Tell me why not.
First of all,
you can't let that happen. He was absolutely shocking in his final year for us. Everyone forgets that. Like, he passed the ball back so many times. He stopped the team. He just stopped any progress being made. And I was so glad to see the back of him, if I'm being completely honest. He was a great servant for us over his 5 years he was at the club. But yeah, by the end of it, Klopp had kind of turned him. Well, I don't know if it was kind of Klopp, but something had just turned him into this sort of really negative player that we just didn't need in our team. And ever since Thiago been playing more regularly, and we've just been playing so much better football. It's been so much aesthetically more pleasing, and it's been getting better results as well. So yeah, it's absolutely no reason to bring him back. I'd rather give Tyler Moore some minutes and just see him get a run out rather than bring Wijnaldum back on heavy wages and a transfer fee as well. I wouldn't even pay money to bring him in.
So you're saying a £0 Wijnaldum? You're not paying wages. Like, it's a 0% wage fee. There's
zero wages.
Like PSG are paying the wages. They're like, all right, just take him for the year. Just take him. They wanted him out of the squad. You're not taking him. No. Not even as a ball boy. He could reenact the Barcelona one where he's just really good at tossing him in. Not even taking him for that.
Yeah, bring him in just to sit in the canteen with the boys.
For vibes only.
Why not?
That would be the true sign of a club having way too much money. You sign a player and a squad position purely for vibes. Just like just to bring in someone's best friend just because, why not? Kev, come on. You were shaking your head because you were like, wow, that's such a good idea, Jack. That's just a phenomenal plan. That's what you're doing, right?
As soon as you started speaking, I knew who you were talking about straight away. And there was no possibility I'd bring him back. I'm sorry, no, he's 31, 32 now.
Yeah.
Didn't do much in the PSG last season. Has been lost his form. I don't see any kind of positive of bringing him into the team. I think it diminishes us if you do bring him in, because it diminishes the likes of the Tyler Morton coming in and playing minutes. It diminishes our squad. It doesn't look right, and you never go back. Sorry.
I think once you if you were to go through all of our streams that I've been on for the last 6 months, and you looked at past the 45-minute point, I just start getting more and more deranged. I had my Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as our best right central midfielder debacle. I defended myself pretty well in the stream the next day. I have to admit.
No, you didn't.
Oh, and I did a pretty good job, didn't I?
In the end, by the end of the stream, you were saying, well, I don't really agree with the point, but I'm trying to keep it going along.
Sumit, you're going to join me, right? It's like this side of the stream is for Genie, those haters over there. Right?
I'm not sure whether I can join you, but I'll put my perspective, which is not that harsh. So let's look at Gini Wijnaldum, right? Gini Wijnaldum in his Liverpool career probably hasn't played that much in the number 6 role, right? So being Fabinho replacement is completely out of question. What Gini was really good at was his legs, injury-free. You can rely on that body to be in the midfield, cover, do the box-to-box, and, give you the intensity that Klopp wanted, right? However, Gini was never the playmaker. Gini was never the number 10. Gini was never the number 8. So you tell me, Jack, if he is not good at number 6, which he has hardly played in Liverpool Football Club, right? Where else he can play? Can he replace Thiago? The answer is no. Can he replace Hendo? The answer is maybe 90% time. Will not be the case 10% time. If he is injured, maybe, okay. Can he replace Keita? No. Can he replace Oxlade-Chamberlain? Maybe, but then Oxlade-Chamberlain is not a regular starter. Can you disrupt the growth of one fantastic talent, Fabio Carvalho, who is probably a genuine number 10? No. So where will you play him? And with that high wages, where will you play him? If you have to give 8 million euros to get him and not play him, why would you do that? Rather, you invest that money somewhere else, get one probably, Nunes from Portugal and develop that player. That would be a better investment in my opinion. So I'm sorry, Jack, I have to disappoint you. It was a use by date product. Done with it. He will move on to Roma. He will enjoy his pizza in Rome, and he will have a nice time with Jose Mourinho.
That's the life, man. See, the issue is, Sumit, you're asking me to base my opinions on things that have happened and not the fantasies in my head. That's the issue that you have right now.
Well, if fantasy is the factor, then I would bring in, I don't know who is available right now. No one is available. I would have done that at the start of the year and get Xiaomeni, who we were really after for, and play the 100 million euro and get that person. But we didn't do that.
You think Nunez? I don't know, Owen.
He's the one. He's the one. I'm telling you.
He's the one. All right.
Nunes is a talent. Nunes is a talent, and we are definitely interested in him. It's just that I don't believe in James Pierce's tweet, by the way. But I think it is that we are not willing to spend that money, given that we have to spend so much for someone called Jude next year. That's why we are holding it back.
I don't know. Owen, have you watched, and answer me truthfully, have you watched a full more over under 90 minutes of the Portuguese Premier Liga?
No, because it's not accessible in the UK.
All right,
I've seen the Champions League games.
That's fair.
Champions League, yeah.
You look good there. So, look, who cares about the Portugal League when you've got the Champions League? The Champions League is the greatest competition in world football. And if he's performing there, then he's already, like, people who watch the Portuguese league are saying that he's good. People are saying alongside Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez, he was like one of the best players last season. So, look, if they're saying he's good enough, then we've already seen with Luis Diaz that he's absolutely been amazing since he came in. I wouldn't be opposed to it whatsoever. I know kind of the whole Bellingham situation, and it looks like we're going to go for him next summer. But you've got to bear in mind, if we don't get him, then there's got to be an alternative, because Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, James Milner, they're all going to be another year older, and probably more injuries as well. So you've got to manage for that for sure.
I won't lie on what I do. I wouldn't prefer Núñez to Bellingham, but there are factors like he's half his price, and is Bellingham twice as good as Núñez? I mean, he's just not. Like that's not disrespectful to Bellingham, but he's not twice as good a footballer. He has a lot more longevity potentially in him. His potential is like damn near limitless, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know. It's a very interesting next. I'm saying the word interesting a lot. What's a synonym for interesting? Intriguing. It's very intriguing next few weeks. I'm intrigued.
But can I tell you something? Can I say something?
Yes.
Sorry. Even though we are looking at Núñez, right? But I don't think that position will probably help us win the league. Again, it comes back to that DM. Who is the backup for Fabinho?
Yeah.
In my opinion, who can, play those Champions League matches and back-to-back 2 matches in a week, and has the legs. I mean, the only person I can think of course, Tchouaméni was number 8, but more could have suited in that role with in 2 pivots, right? Which Kev was mentioning about 4-2-4 or 4-2-3-1. The only person who I thought and Liverpool were interested in him was Basuma. And because of the off-field stuff and whatever happened, and he was really suited for that, backup for Fab. And unfortunately, I was surprised that we didn't go for him, and that's where I was a little disappointed. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, yeah, you're good. I mean, I don't want to say interested because I've already said that as a bogey word, but now every time I want to say it, I'm like, oh, I want to say interested. How strong do we go for the Community Shield, Owen? Because we talked about a little bit about it before getting on stream. How strong an 11 do you expect? Who's the number 9? Because Núñez didn't start that preseason match against Leipzig, came off the bench, bagged 4. And Sumit, you're a bit of a hater. You were saying we can't take that too seriously. He scored 4 goals in 1 match off the bench. That's the baseline. That is now the baseline. Everything else is better than that. We're talking double-digit goals per match based on preseason. It can only go up from here. Oh, and you're backing me up in this, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like Darwin Núñez, outstanding display for him the other night. I don't get the hate for him. He's already had loads of hate, to be fair, from rival fans. So, I'm taking anything we can here with Núñez. A bit of confidence, and yeah, in regards to the Community Shield, I think it's a weird one because I think an element of it has to be fitness, and who kind of is the fittest going into it. Klopp has to know his strongest team because so much is shuffled around now. You've got likes of Harvey Elliott who's coming around and he's looking absolutely fantastic. You've got Fabio Carvalho as well. Darwin Núñez, of course. Manny's now left. Jota's out of the game. So who is the kind of strongest fit to come in? I think, yeah, Man City and Pep Guardiola, they might go a bit experimental or they might just go absolutely ruthless. And I expect them to do the latter, to be honest with you. And that City are going to be up there. City are going to be right up for the game and they're going to be prepared well. So if we do get the win, it'll be a great win. A great way to start the season off. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world if we don't win it. It's not even classed as a major trophy. So it pretty much is a glorified friendly with a trophy. But at the same time, it would send out a big message ahead of the start of the new season.
Wow. Kev, Owen, such a top red, saying it's not a priority. Disgraceful from him. You know, you're joining me in this statement that we're Jurgen Klopp out if we don't win the Community Shield. We've lost to Arsenal. We've lost to Manchester City in the Community Shield. It's high time that we win a Community Shield. And if not, maybe Jurgen isn't the man going forward. Right, Kev?
Absolutely not.
What?
The season we lost to the season we lost to City in the Community Shield, we went on and won the league that season. So it doesn't have an actual say as to or determines who everyone's going to finish. What I hate about this week now will be Sky Sports and other media outlets who will be building this game up as one of the biggest games in world football, when actually it is just a glorified flaming wooden shield that means absolutely nothing to anyone unless you're Mourinho and you're at Man United and it's classed as a trophy. It's the worst. It's the worst game of the season. I have it on. I don't actually sit there and watch it as though it's a Premier League match. I just sit back and just hope that the lads come out of it without any injury. It's something to start the season off, but it will be glorified and brought up there. So delusional fans will get into an absolute state if we get beat 3 or 4-0. I'm not really bothered as long as we're ready and our mindset's ready for the week after. That's where our priority is, and it's about getting fit and preparing us for the first part of the season, and then hopefully trying to prepare ourselves and put things in place for the second half season when the World Cup is finished and we've got players out during those weeks, which Klopp is as referred to. That this season is going to be broken up in 2 halves, and we've got to be prepared for both as best we can. And we may be losing certain players in the second half of the season that we don't tend to be losing, the likes of Van Dijk. So our priority is about getting and maintaining our consistency over the season, not a 90-minute glorified game at the Leicester next week.
That's fair. Sumit, Community Shield. You know, when you look at that and kind of what lineup you want to see, how important it is, where do you kind of fall on those things?
He's on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, Sumit.
Sorry.
You're good.
If we win, then we have won another title. If we lose, it is another Charity Shield, match that we don't care about. That's it. Now, jokes aside, how many Community Shield is in that Liverpool Wall of Fame? Can you guys remind me?
Is it even on the Wall of Fame? I don't think it is it?
It's 0.
Exactly.
The answer is 0. So therefore, the relevance of Community Shield is 0 for me. It's a good final preseason warm-up game, and good for the community, good for charity. We will do it. It will be a good warm-up match. It will be a good test of some competitiveness in the field, especially for players who are coming back from injury, like Alisson, who I don't know whether he will start, but he's back in training now. For the likes of, I think you mentioned about the lineup and everything, but I think the lineup will be pretty much the same like last match with Bobby, Luis Diaz, Salah, and then later on we will see Darwin Boy, and maybe Alisson in back in the goal. But for me, the relevance for Charity Shield is absolutely 0. Manchester City can win it 10 years in a row. I really don't care about it.
Which is the Community Shield closer to? The Bangkok Century Cup or being a major trophy?
The main thing about it, though, for me is that, like, it was like up until 1990, wasn't it, that you could actually share the trophy if it ended a draw. It didn't even go to a penalty shootout. So I think that kind of sums it up, really, that only really recently you could actually, like, not win it. So yeah, it's literally just a friendly, and it's nice to win. Don't get me wrong. I think it's kind of something that none of our players have won. And go on.
Sorry, I have an interesting take on it, and some, please don't hate me. A couple of years back, City won the Community Shield, and Leroy Sané got injured, and probably was injured for the majority best of the season that season, if you guys remember, right? He came back later in the season and he was injured, giving his 110% for that coveted trophy. We wouldn't mind that, if that happens to one or two players from there. Do we?
Any last thoughts before we get out of here? Owen, last thoughts on
to the King Power Stadium. What's all that about? Like,
is it really?
Yeah, that's it's like who can be asked with that traveling down there? Either have it at Wembley or have it like in between them. Yeah, Old Trafford. That's like the perfect destination, really, isn't it? But same time, neither fans are going to want to go there, really, aren't they? From both fan bases, but yeah, it's a bit of a stupid venue for the game.
FA don't do common sense, so let's go for a mediocre stadium in the middle of the Midlands, in which two northwest sides need to get to. Well done. It's meaningless. I'm at the end of the day, I'd sooner win the Bangkok Centenary Cup than actually the FA Charity Shield, but that's just me.
Wait, say that again. My brain's not comprehending this.
The Bangkok Centenary Cup, that's what we lost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that has more meaning. That's more meaning than the Charity Shield. I'm not really bothered about it. It's as I said, it's going to be built up. Haaland, Nunes, we're going to have it all week, all over the media outlets. Liverpool, Man City. It's not really. And then the game won't be as what we expect. It'll be a training game for some. I'm not really that bothered, to be honest. I'm not bothered if we played our under 18s. To be fair, save a few legs.
Sumit, last thoughts on everything we talked about today.
First of all, we talked about Klopp's statement on who will win the league, which was kind of more of, you should take that as more of a, it's like a gamesmanship, if I may call it. And he will go for all four trophies this season again, with the same intensity, if not more. We have done good, solid business, but the key areas for me is still a good backup DM, where if we are lucky with injuries, I think we are in a very good position to challenge again to Manchester City. As far as Community Shield is concerned, it would be a nice, good warm-up match for everyone to enjoy, and hope we get some good goals from Darwin Núñez, and Pep will have more sleepless nights for Liverpool on Liverpool Football Club.
It's been a fun stream today. I'm really excited, and Don Van Dyke's trying to keep me around. He's like, "Stay. Let's make this an interesting stream." That's for another day. Don. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You like today's video. You turn on those notifications, and you tune in for all of our future streams. So, for Owen, for Sumit, for Kev, I've been Jack. This has been the LFC Transfer Room. We'll catch you on our next stream or